To refurbish this GU 2-hook lock mechanism using the components from the refurb kit, we'll begin by removing the central gearbox. This is a latch and deadbolt type gearbox in this kit, and this is secured to the mechanism with T20 Torx screws, for which you will need a T20 Torx driver. There are 3 screws for the central gearbox. It's worth noting that the screws on these GU mechanisms, they do have rather shallow sockets for the Torx driver, so be very careful not to round these screws out. All 3 screws are of the same length, and with the 3 screws removed, we can remove the central gearbox and move on to the top hook case. This is secured with 2 T20 Torx screws, again of the same length as the Torx screws for the gearbox. These screws are micro encapsulated, they've got some Loctite on them, so they can be stubborn. And when you remove the hook cases, the drive rods at the rear on some of these mechanisms are not captive, so they will fall away. So just make note of their position in relation to the faceplate so that you keep them the right way round. So generally that will be with these raised tabs at the back, and which one was top, which one was bottom. Once our top hook case is removed, we can move on to our bottom hook case. Again, 2 T20 Torx screws for our bottom hook case. Again, make sure to note when the faceplate falls away from the drive rod, note which way round that was, and we can begin to refurbish the lock with the components from our kit. So in this kit, the contents are as follows. We have a central gearbox. This is a latch and deadbolt type gearbox, and we have our bottom and top hook cases. They're the same hook cases, and we have upwards facing hooks on this mechanism. These components are attached to the strip with 7 T20 Torx screws, fairly short Torx screws, all of a similar length. So to begin the reassembly process, to refurbish this lock, we'll start with the central gearbox, and it's best to start this on its back with the latch and deadbolt facing upwards, and lift the faceplate onto the gearbox. The faceplate will always face with the countersunk side of the fixing holes facing upwards. So position that so that the apertures line up with the latch and deadbolt, and then we will need our drive rods, remembering how they came off. So the bottom drive rod has got a single notch cut out, and that will line up with this peg of the operating plate inside. There's a small peg at the bottom. So for that reason, obviously the notch cutout must be on this side. So with our faceplate where it sits, we'll lift the faceplate, put the drive rod inside and locate it over that peg, and with it in position, put the faceplate back down on top, and then one of the T20 Torx screws in that bottom fixing hole, screw it down and clamp it into place. And we can go ahead and put one in our central fixing place as well, but not fully tighten it just yet. So our top drive rod, the small dimple here goes at the back, so facing backwards, and we're going to slide this one up underneath, and this will locate on two pegs. There's one on either side, so the T section, the notches, there's one either side, so the T section can go either way round, but with that tab on the back, you should find that it sits over this peg, which you can just see here. There's one peg under the faceplate, and that's where we're trying to locate that. So once that's sat on and hooked on to that peg, we can fully tighten our central fixing point. And then add our top fixing screw. We can move on to our top hook. So for our top hook, we can see this is an upwards facing hook case, and we know which way around it's going to go because the peg for the fixing closest to the gearbox will locate here, so we can see that's going to be closest to the aperture, and the peg for the chute bolt extension is here, so we can see that's further from the hook, so we know that that's the way around it is. This one's going to be the closest to the hook, this one's going to be the furthest to the hook based on the position of this aperture window, so we know it goes this way around. So we're looking to move it into position to where it clicks onto those pegs. So it's dropped onto both of those, and we can now clamp it in place with two of our T20 torque screws. And we can move on to our bottom hook. So again here we have an upwards facing hook, and we can see the location of our pegs for our operating plate. One is significantly further from our hook than the other. This one's quite close, this one's quite far away, so we know what way round that's going to go because our aperture is close to this one, far away from this one. So upwards hook this way round, and we're going to position that against the faceplate. And as with the top hook, we're going to move that so that it drops into, or rather the operating rods drop onto the pegs where the notches are cut out. And once they're in position and they're in the right place, we'll clamp those down with our T20 torque fixing screws. both located, and we have refurbished our GU latch and deadbolt 2-hook multi-point lock using the refurb kit.